Hello and welcome to Backleben. Today we're making sweet potato butter buns. These are rolls that I first discovered and came to appreciate during a business trip in the southern United States. They're super delicious. This is what they look like. You can make them in two different ways. One with the seam facing up for a crust and one brushed with butter. They're really crispy and of course look a bit different inside compared to other rolls since they have sweet potato in them. Super delicious. I hope you have a lot of fun making them yourself. For our sweet potato butter buns, we need flour, specifically type 405 or all-purpose flour, semolina, we need butter, yeast, dry yeast in this case, salt, a sweet potato base, which I'll explain in a moment. Of course, sweet potatoes, they look like this. If you haven't seen them before, you can find them everywhere. Buttermilk and water. Making the dough is actually quite simple. First I take my sweet potato base and let me say a few words about that. This is sweet potato, cooked and of course peeled beforehand. 20 minutes, just like any other potato. Then I took it and simply mashed it with a fork. I also added a bit of butter to it. The recipe specifies how much, it's not much. You can mix the whole thing together very well. It really doesn't need anything more than that. And that's my base, which I need here now, of course, for my sweet potato buns. By the way, buns means bread rolls. Oops, like that. And maybe while we're at it, I discovered this recipe in the southern United States, in Atlanta. I was there once for work, and they served these at the hotel. I could have just dived right in. Absolutely delicious. You'll see, and I hope you'll enjoy it just as much as I do. So my sweet potato base goes into the bowl. Water, buttermilk. Very important, it goes really well with it. Then I take my dry ingredients and my flour, which is also mixed here with semolina, and mix everything together really well again. That's always nice, then you don't get any clumping when making the dough. Of course, that goes onto my liquids and my mashed potatoes more or less. And the butter, that goes on top of the flour at the end. The butter needs to be soft so it can be kneaded in well. Now the whole thing needs to be kneaded thoroughly. I'll do that now on medium speed for 6 minutes. It needs to emulsify really nicely, and then I'll show you what the dough looks like. So let's put it in the machine. All right, my dough is ready now. It's been kneaded well. What's important with this recipe is that everything emulsifies well, so that the sweet potato mash, more or less, this base, really combines well with the flour. You'll see in a moment. Whoops! It sticks well too, but that doesn't matter. It suits this dough. Now, this is what it looks like. It's soft as it should be, and yet it's elastic. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to handle it like this. Now I'm going to give it a basic structure. That means I stretch and fold it, or as I say here, I shape it into a round. That gives the whole thing stability. Then I'll have a nice dough later that I can work with easily, from which I can cut off the pieces I need. That's really the whole story here. Now the dough will rest for 2.5 to 3 hours at room temperature. It doesn't need to be near a heater or anything like that. It just needs to rest. It will really develop its flavor over the next 2.5 to 3 hours. Yes, of course I cover it. In this case, I use a nice baking tray here, and now I can take a little break. See you in a bit. The dough has now finished its resting period. It has become noticeably larger. This is what it looks like. I have to say, this is a very forgiving dough, forgiving in the sense that you can work with it wonderfully. You don't have to rush or worry that it will collapse like a souffle. It works out really well. Now I'm going to flour my table a bit, because I'm going to cut the dough into 100-gram pieces. That means I'll weigh them out. Oops. I'll just set this aside for a moment. Now I'm weighing them out in 100-gram pieces so that I end up with evenly sized rolls later. I'm now going to gently round my pieces of dough. That means I'm giving each individual piece, each dough piece, a bit of structure. And then I'll let them rest for 15 minutes. They simply need that. This dough really benefits from it. Walk it a bit, let it relax, walk it, relax. That's how it turns out really nice. So I've now given it a bit of preliminary structure. Now I'll cover them and let them relax completely for 15 minutes. All right, see you in a bit. The dough pieces have now rested for 15 minutes. Earlier, I briefly shaped them, briefly rounded them. Now I'm going to make two different versions with these two dough pieces. I'll take them again and now I'll shape them into a tight round. That means I'm really giving them a good amount of tension now. I'm doing this for the following reason. These ones I will brush with butter later, after they come out of the oven. So I place them seam side down and make, let's say, little bald heads out of them. I'll set them over there. I'll shape the others just as tightly round. But I see that the ending is a bit more open. And I press them into flour. By the way, this is rye flour, and I've mixed this rye flour with a bit of rice flour. It has a wonderful effect when the rolls are supposed to rise later. I press them in here and place them with the floured side facing down. I'll turn them over later, after I take them out of the oven. As you can see, some are placed seam side down without a floury surface. And as I said, I've floured these and I'll turn them over later. Now I'll cover them again and let them rest for about half an hour here in the room, just as usual, so they can rise nicely before going into the oven. Well, now we'll wait for that half hour. Our sweet potato butter buns have now rested for 30 minutes, covered here in the warm room. At room temperature, as you can see, they have risen beautifully. These are the sides that I'll brush with butter later. I'm going to turn them over now. I'll flip the dough blade so that the crust on top forms a little differently. Now they go into the oven at 215 degrees and with steam in my oven. We'll bake them nicely, and as soon as I take them out, I'll brush them with butter again. The reason for this is that they become really buttery and taste absolutely delicious. Butter but have a nice crispy texture. Crust. So let's do that now. Alright, our rolls have been in the oven for exactly 23 minutes now. I put them in at 215 degrees and with steam. After 10 minutes, I reduce the temperature to 185 degrees and then I finish baking them. It might vary a bit with your oven, so you'll need to experiment. But I can only say they're baked through and look fantastic. And now I'm brushing them with butter. And I really have to do this while they're still hot, because then the butter soaks in nicely. And later, when they're completely cooled, your fingers won't get greasy. If you only... oh heavens. If you do it 10 minutes later, the butter doesn't soak in as well. And then it just sits on top, which isn't as pleasant. As I mentioned earlier, since I brush them again with butter, they turn out really nice. Court. I don't know if this expression actually exists. I just use it because I simply say they're delicious, and that's how I know them. As I said, I first discovered them on a business trip. I would have loved to take some mjörimid with me, but unfortunately that wasn't possible at the time. So, as you can see, this goes pretty quickly. They're still quite hot, but you can really see how quickly the butter soaks in here. And then it really is inside the bun and not just on top. And it makes your fingers greasy when you eat. So these are our sweet potato butter buns. I hope you enjoyed our video again. I'd be happy if you tune in again next time. As always, you'll find the recipe for these buns below our video description. Thank you for watching, and I wish you lots of fun baking these yourself. See you next time on Backleben. Ciao!